Sonnet 65 by Shakespeare is not very well loved by a lot of people. It is hard for students to understand, and yet it is a very fun poem when you get into it, particularly because of its imagery. Shakespeare, as we have noted in a lot of his sonnets and in a lot of his poetry, he has an abstract idea, but he'll often convey it with a very small, concrete idea, a very specific image, is part of why his power as a poet is so great. This poem is very, very artificial. It's meditating on that same question that a lot of sonnets meditate on in the English Renaissance, which is, oh my God, how will love and beauty survive when death and time are destroying them every day? There's a lot of sweating that question out, and the answer is always through poetry. Poetry will vanquish time and death and save love and beauty forever. This sonnet is mostly what I would call a philosophical sweat storm, and then magically turns into a love poem right at the end. Shakespeare loves to delay, and then right at the end do a volta because he's so particularly dramatic. This poem is made up of what I would say images of love and beauty, images of time and death, and then toward the end a little bit of imagery of poetry. And we're going to do that with color coding. First I'll look at the structure of the poem, and then we'll take a look at the imagery through color coding. So let's just look at the poem. I'll do this with, I think, green, the different sort of structures. There's a 4-line question. Then we notice an O. O's are important because they show a heightening of emotional investment. And we see that there's another 4-line question. And we get another O. Oh my goodness, it's getting really dramatic. And we get an exclamation point, very, very dramatic. And then we get several questions in the next 4-line stanzas, right? So if I were going to illustrate it, I would say question, O question, and then O exclamation point, question, 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 and then we get resolution and answer. And that's how Shakespeare amps up the drama of this particular sonnet. So let's take a look at the imagery of the poem. We're going to make time and death the color black for evil. We're going to make love and beauty red. And I'm going to also say that beauty is always fragile, so red represents fragility. We're going to work with those two different things there. So let's say that the poem begins with what I will call, blue is going to represent hard things, strong things is what I should say. Now, Shakespeare doesn't do a neither nor construction, probably because he only needs 10 syllables, or maybe that was very Elizabethan. But when I read the line, I like to add a neither just because it seems natural to us. So the first line is filled with very powerful, strong, hard, lasting things. Since neither brass, nor stone, nor earth, nor boundless sea, but sad mortality o'ersways their power, how with this rage shall beauty hold a plea, whose action is no stronger than a flower? So it's kind of a complicated question, but he's like, how can beauty survive when beauty is represented by the image of a flower? A flower, very easy to destroy, right? If you've got to move flowers across town, you know that it very easily is destroyed. Falls over in your car, gets crumpled, wilts in the heat. You're like, my God, it doesn't last at all. Flowers have to be protected. So since flowers can't survive the raging of sad mortality, and neither can brass, stone, or earth, or boundless sea, he's meditating on how could beauty possibly survive. If strong things can't survive time, how could weak things do it? But I want you to see that the order is blue, black, red. Because watch what Shakespeare does in the next stanza as he tries to amp it up. He says, oh, how shall summer's honey breath hold out against the wreckful siege of battering days, when rocks impregnable are not so stout, nor gates of steel so strong, but time decays. Now, we see a change of imagery here. Shakespeare's just throwing it all at us, which is why he's so rich. The flower has turned into something even more fragile, into summer's honey breath. That's a personification of summer, as if summer was a person or a goddess probably that has a honey breath. But you can't see honey breath. I mean, it's even more fragile an image than a flower. We see that sad mortality and rage has turned into war imagery, right? Wreckful siege of battering days makes us think of a battering ram trying to break through and take the castle. But here it's not a battering ram, it's the days that are battering by. And brass, stone, earth, and boundless sea have turned into rocks impregnable, the rocks that cannot be pregnated, they cannot be destroyed. Or gates of steel, those don't last, time decays those. So we see that the sonnet moves this way, blue, black, red. Then it moves this way, red, black, blue. And then he's really upset. He's like, oh my goodness, I know it's very artificial and posy, but that's very Shakespeare. Oh, fearful meditation! Where, alack, shall time's best jewel from time's chest lie hid? Or what strong hand can hold his swift foot back? Or who his spoil of beauty can forbid? So we can see that he's getting increasingly upset because we've moved from question, question, to question, question, question. First, we just open with an exclamation. Oh, fearful meditation, this is freaking me out. Where can time's best jewel? And there's a little bit of a paradox there, is that time is both the destroyer and the prerequisite necessary condition for beauty. A flower cannot grow without time. Music cannot occur without time. So beauty is both time's best jewel, but time is trying to take it away from us as well and take it into its chest. And we see that, Shakespeare does what I call that balanced line where he says, what strong hand can hold his swift foot back? Because time is a quick thief, and time is a thief here. Who his spoil of beauty can forbid? Who can stop time? Oh my gosh, we're at the end of the poem. We need to have an answer. Shakespeare sort of like almost backs off, like all this was a pose. I didn't even need to worry about it. He says, oh, none. Nobody can stop time. Unless this miracle of mine have might, that in black ink my love may still shine bright. Do you see how he does an up and down line there as well? We have black ink, and yet it paradoxically shines bright. We sort of understand that on a literal level where like ink is kind of shiny. It seems to shine even though it's black. And we see that he's turned the poem into a love poem. My love for you, whoever the audience of this poem is going to shine bright because of the miracle of poetry. When I write my lines of poetry in black ink, my love shines bright between them. This is one of my favorite poems, even though it's kind of philosophical and tremendously artificial and posy. But you can see that the imagery in this poem is particularly amazing for the way that it balances out and goes different directions, and for how much imagery is there and how the images change and kind of increase in drama as the poem goes on. So where does this poem begin? With sort of a calm meditation. Where does it end? It ends with a declaration of love and the power of poetry. I'm not sure what I would pick as the most powerful word in this poem. It might be miracle, because the poem is suggesting, that poetry is particularly a miracle. But I love the images so much, it's hard to pick one image that sticks out the most. What is this poem? A celebration of poetry's power over time.